Open your cerebral cortex and shift your lobes into upper beta phase, because you are going to have Bitcoin knowledge transmitted directly into your vestibulocochlear. Your host at Bitcoin Knowledge is Trace Mayer, an early Bitcoin advocate since it cost $0.25, but this is not intended to be investment advice. A doctor of jurisprudence, but this is definitely not legal advice. And an investor in core cryptocurrency infrastructure, including Armory, BitPay, Kraken, and Nitagio, but this is not a recommendation of those services. Here, you get fed via direct mind download with pure and free Bitcoin knowledge.
Here with the legendary Trace Mayer, who I've been watching for a while, and I'm sure many of you have. He's been one of the biggest advocates for Bitcoin since Bitcoin was what price?
25 cents.
25 cents.
$2 million market cap for the entire cryptocurrency industry, and a couple weeks ago we hit 115 billion. So
that's insane. You were gifting your friends Bitcoin and telling them to get into it.
Rarely gifting. Usually they'd have to buy it. That way they valued it.
Yeah. A friend gave up Bitcoin a while ago to a friend, and the friend just is holding it, never bought another one. That's a waste of time.
Yeah, in fact, as we were talking before, the fellow we were talking to, we had dinner, and I had sent him Bitcoin to pay for the dinner, and it was something like 6 Bitcoins. So
wow.
That's like $18,000 now.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant this week.
No, I mean...
that was a hell of a dinner.
But who we were just talking with here at the conference. And so, it's been very interesting to see the changes and the increases in the price and the increase in the community and all the new people and all the activity in our companies that are built, like
that's exactly what I want to talk about.
Kraken and Coinbase, all this stuff. Very fascinating.
Would you like to introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, I'm Trace Mayer. I host the Bitcoin Knowledge podcast where I interview all the CEOs in the space, early Bitcoin adopters we talked about, and then I've funded a lot of the core infrastructure. So I seed funded Armory, the most secure wallet, BitPay, the largest merchant processor, and then Kraken, the largest Bitcoin exchange in the world now, fiat-wise. So, just right in the thick of it all.
Yeah. Oh man. So Bitcoin has actually just activated. Well, they're in the process of activating SegWit. They've locked it in.
Right.
And what are your thoughts? What is going on right now? User-activated soft fork. You might have been one of the bigger proponents of that. That wasn't getting much traction, but now is.
I don't know that I would say I was a proponent of it, but I would accept that I perhaps was a catalyst of it.
Yeah, it's important. SegWit is.
Yeah, so this actually goes back quite a ways, how we're going to scale Bitcoin at the protocol level. Because personally, I think right now the scaling issues are more with infrastructure, with, Kraken or Coinbase. Like Kraken, we get 4,000 support emails a day, right? We hired 150 people in the last 2 months. I mean, how do you train all these people? The scaling issues aren't necessarily with the protocol; they're with the surrounding infrastructure. But it is an issue, and it's been hotly debated for years. I mean, years it's been going on. And I remember Gavin Andreessen, the former lead developer, he wanted to start taking the discussion public, as opposed to kind of technical with the developers. And when you're doing science and you're discussing a critical security measure, you don't vote on what to do with the rods in a nuclear reactor.
Right.
That's not a discussion for Reddit. That's a discussion for the engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And Gavin lost, the discussion with the engineers, and so he decided he's going to take it out to the public. And so he started doing that, and this was about 2 years ago, and I had hosted a discussion. It was Dr. Adam Back, who's cited in the Tor white paper and the Bitcoin white paper, and then Gavin and we did a 90-minute discussion on my podcast where we talked about all this. Because, there are definitely arguments on all the sides.
When did you do that?
That was, I think, October of 2015.
Okay.
It might have been 2014, now that I think about it. I mean, it was a while ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this SegWit, this scaling debate, it's been...
SegWit is
it's
necessary.
Been going for a while.
Yeah,
right?
That's what led me to diversify. It's that I got frustrated with the fact that we weren't getting SegWit out there. Or bigger blocks, just something to push the network forward.
And we'd spent... I mean, we've wasted now tens of millions of dollars of developer time, hundreds of millions of dollars of just community time, like chasing our tails on on like a technically irresponsible argument, because from the technical community, SegWit is widely accepted, right? And so it's been a very hot, kind of contentious debate, which is great because that's what open source software is all about.
Yeah.
Like, bring it all into the square, like, hash it out, like, knock down, drag out, fight. It's a brutal meritocracy. Like, if you're just not good enough to get your code, like, pull requested in, like, it's because you're just not good enough. And, like, sorry, it's not about your ego or anything, but, like, go play on a different basketball court.
That's such a good point. That's almost the whole cryptocurrency scene. If you're not smart enough to look it up yourself, understand why you should be in it, then it's kind of survival of the fittest, so I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's very survival of the fittest. Like, if you're not going to figure out how to hold your own private keys or, like, understand how this network consensus works or why it's important to run a full node, then guess what? You get taken for a ride by Coinbase, who says, we're not going to support this particular fork. Mm-hmm. And if that fork has 20% of the value and they're just not going to support it,
what do they do with it? They can take that and use that as well.
Well, that would be unjust enrichment, and they'd probably like major class action lawsuits. But there's probably, to be said, class action lawsuit potential for waste, because a reasonably prudent custodian would, secure those Ether classics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they have 10 or 15% of the value, or the fork of the Bitcoin or whatever. But if you're controlling your own private keys and you're running your own full node, you have the power as the user. And that's really like the core of the ethos of Bitcoin, is not trusting third parties and all of this stuff. And that's what's kind of at the core of this scaling debate, because some of the proposals want to increase the cost of running a full node.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is like, your full node is your shield, it's your protection against like the Balrog or against Sauron or against like the evil forces that want to control you and take your money.
Yeah.
Your full node is how you fight against that.
And you vote. That's your say.
And so if you wanna raise the weight of a sword and a shield from 2 pounds to 50 pounds, now some people can and can't like hold them, right? Because they're so much heavier. And so that's really what the scaling debate's been about. Is some of these people want to raise the cost of running full nodes for people, and I just don't like that. And so,
what kind of costs would be incurred, do you think?
Well, mainly it's with bandwidth. We've got bandwidth costs. We've got storage costs. But those are fairly negligible. But it's mainly the So the main issue with the scaling debate is we've got some people trying to increase the cost of running your full node, and that's your sword and your shield that you take to defend your monetary sovereignty with. And so you raise the cost, you make the sword and the shield way more. Like, some people just can't wield it anymore because they're in Africa or they're in South America where they don't have good bandwidth or like whatever it is. And so, in my opinion, we should be keeping the cost to run full nodes as cheap as possible. It's one of the reasons I funded Armory. I want people to be able to hold their own private keys as cheap as possible.
What is Armory exactly?
Armory, we innovated the whole concept of cold storage for your Bitcoins. Mm-hmm. Having Bitcoins on a computer that's the private keys that has never touched the internet. So makes it very difficult to steal or hack or anything, And we've seen lots of Bitcoins and lots of the Ether and just get stolen, In fact, Parity, the Ether multi-sig wallet, it just had a $32 million breach, and that was actually from the software, not necessarily from like
the network side of things.
The network side of things, or like even a cybersecurity attack. It was a purely software bug attack, which very well could have been Gavin Wood, who was the CTO, might have put that in there and left it in there because it was subject to peer review for 6 months, so there's plausible deniability, and then he might have been the one that stole everybody's Ether, right? Because, why aren't all the people who are holding tens of millions of dollars of Ether in this Parity wallet, why haven't they reviewed the code to make sure that it's solid?
Yeah,
right?
It was a pretty simple part of the code.
So they're either grossly negligent or they're malicious, and they're the ones who stole the Ether. And there's no way for them to prove that they didn't steal the Ether. And at the end of the day, the money's gone, right? So
it's terrible. I've been talking to Swarm City people. They're friends of mine, and they're talking about how now they have to figure out a way to develop. Luckily, they have the support of the developers who believe in what they're doing, so they're going to continue to develop.
Yeah, but I mean, when you lose a ton of money like that,
they lost pretty much their main wallet. So.
Yeah, did they lose it or did they steal it? There's no way to prove.
Yeah.
Right. Until they might try to cash it out or whatever. But even if they weren't malicious, they were still grossly negligent because they didn't review the code. The bug was in there for 6 months. Maybe it was put in there surreptitiously by Gavin. There's no way to prove that it wasn't. But at the end of the day, the puck went into the net on his watch, from what I understand. And so it's like, well, you should have been a better goalie, right? And we've seen this before. I mean, even NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, they signed off on some cryptographic protocols that had vulnerabilities in them that were placed there by NSA.
Wow.
So that NSA could get in through back doors. Yeah. So things like Heartbleed. Remember Heartbleed? Like
no. Please
it was bug in OpenSSL, I think. And so that was part of, from what I understand, like one of the constants had been compromised by NSA in the way it was created.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And with the Armory wallet, we had two choices. We could have used the OpenSSL library, or we could have used another library, and we actually used a different library.
Smart.
Because I'm not taking any risks.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I want to secure private keys.
Yeah.
And then it was interesting, years later, after that decision had been made, we made the right decision. So I mean, doing code review, it's survival of the fittest. And we had somebody at actually, it was at a New York Bitcoins conference.
Yeah, I was there.
And you were there? Yeah, we had the U.S. Marshals come up. They wanted us to help secure the Silk Road Bitcoins, which was that would have been kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
But we had someone else come up to the booth, and they were like, why should I use the Armory wallet? And our dev was like, because whoever steals your Bitcoin will.
Yeah, that's funny.
Until it isn't, right? Like, why should I use the Parity wallet?
Oh man, yeah, I know.
Yeah, poof, it's gone, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to take serious charge of your money and everything.
Yeah.
Which is why using highly peer-reviewed software is so important. And guess what? Where are the internet legends participating? Bitcoin Core. Adam Back, cited in the Bitcoin white paper, the Tor white paper, Bram Cohen, the inventor of BitTorrent, Matt Corallo, Peter Woola, the author of Libsep 256 KP1, the author of SegWit, Greg Maxwell. I mean, these are the legends in this space. And guess what? They're working on the Bitcoin Core wallet. And these miners, they were talking about wanting to fire Core. And it's like, fire Core? And replace them with what?
Right, and then the Bitcoin Unlimited movement came out, and there were multiple bugs that came out with that software.
And crashed
I think
everything.
You call them amateur baseball teams.
Well, I mean, they're not even amateur. They're like bench warming JV, second string team.
Yeah.
Because if they were any good, they would be contributing to Bitcoin Core. I mean, we've got hundreds of people that contribute to Bitcoin Core.
Yeah.
That are the top people in the world that do this stuff. It's not a company, it's not even an organization, it's a loosely knit, open source meritocracy where you got to be able to contribute code and ideas. And it's not about ego, it's about the ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, we can be friendly, but if you got a stupid idea, you are going to get taken to task with that. And you're going to be made, that's how you get points. You make points by pointing out the stupidness in other people's ideas. Not making personal attacks or anything, but just pointing out the logical flaws and the fallacies and the reasoning and all that stuff. And it's in that brutal meritocracy that we really get advancement. I mean, it's how all of our science is done, right?
Yeah, it's competition. It's free market. That's part of it.
Intellectual competition and meritocracy. And so, Bitcoin, if you're not going to use Bitcoin Core, what process are you going to use? You're going to use software that's closed sourced? Unlimited or Classic or some of these were. I mean, they were closed source. Well, why would somebody want to have closed source software? Bitcoin Core, you have access to all of the code all of the time. So why would you not want to give people access to the code all of the time? Well, so that you could introduce vulnerabilities and steal their Bitcoin. That's why you would want to have closed source software.
Sure, yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the easiest reason I can think of.
I can see that for some individuals, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, you have to presume no trust, like in this realm, and there's no margin for error. You screw up, you don't review the code, and your $30 million of Ether gets stolen because there's a vulnerability in the Parity wallet, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done, the money's gone.
It's terrible, yeah.
I mean, at least with Ethereum, you can roll back the blockchain, right, or whatever they use.
It was a celebration of the DAO incident, actually.
Yeah, like
it was a year anniversary, I think the day after that.
Yeah, I mean, never a dull moment, right?
No.
But with Bitcoin, you're not rolling anything back because it's proof of work, and there's just a lot of processing power behind it. So, like Bitcoin, there's no margin for error.
Right.
You got to be perfect all the time,
yeah.
or your money's gone.
So, what do you see happening now within the next few months? Since user-activated soft fork is taking off, we did have active or lock-in for SegWit 2x. So, what do you think?
Yeah. So, where we're at currently, like right now, is we're looking at BIP 91 being enforced. And then once BIP 91 gets enforced and we have a complete activation period of SegWit that goes through, which is about 2 weeks, then SegWit will activate, and then SegWit will begin getting enforced for the next 2 weeks, and then SegWit gets completely locked in. So we're looking at like middle of August, maybe third week of August for like SegWit being live and everything. And then that lays the foundation and kind of opens the floodgates for more development and innovation to begin happening with Bitcoin at the protocol level.
What do you think?
So
what do you
smart
expect?
contracts. Yeah. I mean, I'm really excited about Schnorr signatures and masked Merkle abstract syntax trees and how that'll impact what we can do with smart contracts. I'm really excited with rootstock. You know, and being able to port over Solidity and basically like port everything at Ethereum like over onto Bitcoin and make it interoperable and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that's super exciting. I'm really excited about things like Mimblewimble and Tumblebit and
what's Mimblewimble and Tumblebit? Is that like is that a Tumblr?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, that's basically what we're trying to work on, improving the fungibility.
That's exciting. So you'll be able to make it more fungible with SegWit?
Oh yeah, SegWit's like a foundational tool for a lot of this stuff. Lightning Network. I mean, we could do Lightning Network without SegWit, but doing it with SegWit makes it much more. SegWit's a fix for something called transaction mailability, and in addition to a whole lot of stuff, it really like refines and purifies the code and removes a lot of just stuff a lot of problems that we had that we didn't need. We're going to see a greater efficiency of the use of block space. We're going to see, just a lot of these things that increase the overall efficiency of Bitcoin and lays the foundation for our next levels of iteration of innovation.
Do you think that a lot of software is ready for SegWit to activate?
Oh,
maybe?
Yeah.
So we'll get a huge floodgate opening right away of innovation.
Yeah. I mean, like the Armory wallet's already ready for SegWit, for example.
It's exciting.
Even BTC.com, which is owned and operated by Bitmain, who is one of the main people in opposition to SegWit, it looks like their Block Explorer is calculating weight of signatures. So it looks like they're ready for SegWit.
Wow.
I mean, when I say tens of millions of dollars has gone into getting the ecosystem and everybody tested and ready and compliant for SegWit, I mean, a lot of people have done a lot of work. And so, like, why are we dealing with 2014 Bitcoin? We need 2016 or 2017 Bitcoin.
Yeah, we should have been way past this, honestly.
Let's get on with the show,
yeah.
you know?
You don't see this happening in any other software. There's such a debate for years over one piece of code that almost everyone agrees should happen.
Well, I mean, all the technical people agree.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of politicized.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of vested interests that would not like SegWit. Blockchain analytics companies. It's going to make their job a lot harder to track and trace and do all of this stuff on everybody. Surveillance, it's going to make that a lot harder. It's going to make surveillance a lot harder. Which I feel that those companies are expendable. if they go out of, if their expenses go through the roof and they just can't keep doing what they're doing and have to go out of business, I feel that's an acceptable casualty. They're expendable because we get other uses out of SegWit with this increase in the protocol and whatnot. So very excited. But yeah, there definitely are some vested interests that might not be interested.
You're absolutely right.
SegWit being activated.
Yeah, Bitmain, right, with their ASIC boost, that would cut it out.
Yeah, I mean, they of course denied that they're using code for the ASIC boost, but then they have like the code in their hardware. Like, I mean,
to this day, the hardware they're pumping out, do you know if it still has that code in there?
Would not surprise me. I mean, come on, the hand's in the cookie jar. But hey,
it's a business, right? It's ruthless. It's that's the business world, right? Everyone's trying to make the most profit, so I can't blame them.
I'm kind of on the same. I'm on the same page as like
it's sharks eating sharks.
I mean, the Bitcoin community used to be much more gentlemanly. It used to be much more collegial. But yeah, I understand when it's hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake every day, as opposed to 50 or 100 or a couple thousand. You might burn some bridges not being gentlemanly. You might change the perception from being someone that can be worked with to someone that you have to presume is hostile and malicious. And so I think that the Bitcoin community may just have to change the presumption towards miners, and they might just have to assume, for the sake of argument, and where they reason from, that miners are just hostile and malicious. And so that means that, miners might largely be just completely excluded from any future discussions and presumed to be malicious and hostile actors of the PBOC or the Federal Reserve or whoever. Now, whether they actually are or aren't, we aren't gonna assert it. We're just gonna assume that they are, and that increases the it increases the burden on people writing the software, having to make it stronger and more resilient, and the network and community more resilient. But that makes Bitcoin stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's great.
All of this has happened, I think, for the best reasons. And I think moving forward, this is all going to be irrelevant. There might be multiple Bitcoin. One probably will be the main Bitcoin, though.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone agrees.
So SegWit, when you look at SegWit 2x, there's the SegWit component and there's the 2x component.
Right.
And they're not mingled together.
No, not at all.
And so... And I told Jihan, back in November, we were discussing this, and he told me, he's going to activate SegWit, and he was like, well, why can't we do the 2x fork first? I'm like, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to work like that.
I heard about today, they were speaking about, I think on Bitcoin.com, there was actually a news article that they put out talking about frozen Bitcoin to try to get the hard fork in place.
Yeah, via BTC. I actually went and tried to create an account there, but they won't take U.S. citizens because I wanted to go in and just dump a bunch of BCC because it was trading really high. And
$900 I heard.
It was trading really high, and I'm just like, man, that's a total sell. Even the risk of letting via BTC hold my Bitcoins for a week or whatever, But at the end of the day, you're dealing with 7 billion people on this planet. You're dealing with several million in the Bitcoin community. You're dealing with a lot of the sharpest technical and business minds and entrepreneurs. This is where the money's at.
Yeah.
And it's where the money's going to continue to be at. At the height of the tech bubble, it was $2.3 trillion of market cap, and we only had 117 billion of market cap. So we could have a 20, 30x increase in market cap and just be where we're at with the tech bubble. And this is way more potential.
It's smaller.
This is money.
Much smaller.
The world is redefining what money is going to be.
I said this is like finding a new world. It's just the people who are here early are like the pilgrims coming in.
Well, it's the analogy that I've used is Christopher Columbus. The big innovation he made was discovering the trade routes to America, and then you had the new continent get built out. But because of how the geography was set up, all of it flowed through New York with the rivers, right? And that's why New York became just this massive hub of economic activity. Bitcoin is the New York of cyberspace. And Satoshi discovered the trade winds for this new continent of cyberspace.
I like that.
Where we're going to have encryption, privacy, where we're going to have transferring of value, like all this stuff. And that's why all the cypherpunks, all these legends like Dr. Back have converged on Bitcoin. Because like this is where the action is going to be.
Absolutely.
And when we're redefining money, I mean, just U.S. bank accounts, we've got $12 trillion. I mean, how much in euros and yen and like all this other stuff?
Bond market, gold derivatives.
Bond markets,
trillions
gold
upon
derivatives, quadrillions actually.
Yeah, I've heard that. I think 4 quadrillion was the last number I heard.
I mean, when you're looking at derivatives and all this stuff, and so, you know, if just 1% of the assets in offshore tax haven bank accounts move into Bitcoin, you're looking at millions of dollars per Bitcoin.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, $2.8 million. That's so I was the first one to come out with a multi-million-dollar price target on Bitcoin. December 2013.
I think McAfee just caught up with you.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen that fast, and I definitely wouldn't make a bet like he did.
Yeah. I think everybody's heard of that on national television.
Don't want to lose anything you might value.
Oh man,
or someone else might value.
Oh no, I had differing opinions. I'm gonna watch it. I'm not gonna watch it. How exciting! I don't know.
I might just sit that one out.
Yeah. I'll just blog about it or something. Oh God.
Definitely get some page views though.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've asked this question to everyone at this Freedom Festival, which is, where do you see the world in 3 years, economically, with Bitcoin or without? Your view, your own perspective on what your reality might be within 3 years.
Well, the world is in commotion, but cryptocurrency is in forward motion. And you know, when you have this, we're looking at a transition from the industrial age to the information age. The agricultural age to the industrial age took 500 years to transition. It's going to take 40 to 50 to do industrial to information. We're already 20 years into it. And the rate, it's like a jet engine. The faster it goes, you know, we're building on all the tools, things like GitHub, open source technology, PGP encryption, asymmetric encryption that Diffie-Hellman came up with in the 70s. Like, we're building on all this stuff with Bitcoin. So we're able to use all these tools. We're able to spread the word with YouTube. Like, YouTube didn't exist 10 years ago, right? Yeah. Like in Facebook. So the rate of change is only going to increase. And the amount of capital that's going to get sucked into this black hole that's on the world's balance sheet with cryptocurrency, I mean, it's just like, you're going to see stars destroyed, you know, legacy incumbent players.
Yeah, I call it, you know, we came from this age of glorifying sex and beauty and just visual and not necessarily information, and advancement of the mind, which I think is exactly what you're almost saying, which is a transfer of wealth from one group of people to the other.
It's going to be a transfer of wealth, the likes of which the world has never seen,
right? Because
we're rethinking money from commodity money like gold and silver to fiat currency to now cryptocurrency, math-based money. That's going to be huge. We're in an entirely different world now. The industrial age was primarily about using So the industrial age was primarily about using tools to multiply the power of our muscles. The information age, no, we're multiplying the powers of our mind. And, you know, we're not just using one excavator. We're able to use distributed systems to operate tens of thousands.
To get a copy of the free Bitcoin Guide at freebitcoinguide.com. Got a question or suggestion? Record your voice at bitcoin.kn. Don't be shy. To help the show, share bitcoin.kn with friends, post about it on Reddit, and otherwise spam the interwebs. Your iTunes comments and 5-star reviews are very important to us. Please continue tuning in to the Bitcoin Knowledge Podcast, where we release interviews with the top people in the Bitcoin world. Now take some choline and let that Bitcoin knowledge consolidate.